Good afternoon, everybody. This is Stephanie Walter with the Water Environment Federation. I am the Senior Manager, Exhibition Operations here, and I obviously owe a huge thanks to Jefferson Davis with Competitive Edge for hosting actually all of our webinars this year so far. This is our last one, and today we're covering using the latest technology to improve your exhibiting performance and ROI. As he mentioned, we're going to cover a lot of topics in a pretty short amount of time. Also joining us today is Davon Addison with Experient, and Davon's going to cover a lot of our EventBit content today, and I really am glad everybody took a little bit of time out of their day to join us, whether it's morning or afternoon for you. And we're going to do Q&A at the end, so here we go right into it. Just a quick hype for our exhibitor toolkit. This is where we are kind of collecting and aggregating all of our marketing information for exhibitors. We update it regularly with current content, current webinars, our recorded webinars, and then we always have our most up-to-date information right up there at the top, most up-to-date stuff. So that's kind of the last of what I want to intro here, and I'm going to turn it over to Jefferson with everything else and let him get to it.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. And again, all of you listening today, like you, I've sat right where you're sitting. Since 1985, I've exhibited at over 200 shows, and I got to be honest, I always felt like the only time I heard from the show organizer is when they wanted to sell me something, or they wanted a check, or they sent me that service kit telling me all that stuff that I had to do. And so how cool is it to be partnering and exhibiting with a great organization like WEF and a great team like Stephanie and the entire team at WEFTEC who cares enough about us as exhibitors to not just rent us concrete and hope it all works out, but to keep us up to speed on the latest ideas and best practices on how to make it all work. As Stephanie mentioned, the exhibitor toolkit on the screen here is your 24/7, 365 knowledge portal. Make sure that you are visiting and consuming all the content. There's $10,000 worth of content up there. There's a lot of downloadable resources, and share it with everybody on your team. Make sure everybody's aware of it, because this exhibiting game is changing fast, and I feel that if we're not keeping up, then we're falling behind, and you have a great partner at WEF to help you stay ahead of the curve. So speaking of the curve, let's jump into today's content, which is really technology. Okay, so why technology? Why do we as exhibitors need to be adopting technology? Well, the first part, our experience on the show floor, and I think Stephanie's also as we walk the floor, is that you'll see that there's a lot of room for bringing technology into the WEFTEC space. Not that many exhibitors are really pushing the envelope. And one of the big benefits is the competition for attendees' time and attention is really fierce. They're not stopping at every booth. They're very selective about which booths they do stop at. So if you can bring that wow factor into your booth, it's going to help you stand out from the crowd. Immersive, interactive experiences are what attendees are looking for. And so if you take the time to think about your experience and come up with something that's interactive and it's fun and that they learn something by doing something in your booth, you're going to get your fair share of traffic. And it also forces you to step back from your solutions and look at them from the customer's viewpoint. And it helps you improve both your content, control of the messaging, and the delivery. And so integrating technology is the perfect tool, and the ability to do some super cool stuff that we're going to show you today here. And by the way, it doesn't matter whether you're a small exhibitor in a 10 by 10, or you're a medium exhibitor in a 20 by 20, or you're a big exhibitor in a 50 by 80. Right? There are elements of technology that can be integrated into any booth of any size, and that's what we want to give you kind of a tour on here today of what we're seeing on show floors. Okay, so some of the ways that technology is kind of positively disrupting the landscape is, number one, is attention grabbing. If they don't see you, they can't engage with you. But number two is that ability, as you embrace some of the technology, you also position your company as being on the cutting edge, the leading edge. You're up to date, you're current, and that's what everybody wants from their supplier and vendor relationships. Engagement. The number one way that attendees want to interact with exhibits on show floors is through interactive, hands-on, minds-on demonstrations and presentations. So you force interaction in your booth. And there's a lot of ways to use technology that can bring the fun factor in here. At the end of the day, I think we're all kids at heart, right? And if we have the opportunity to stand there and listen to a dry, boring lecture or immerse ourselves in some form of audio-visual experience, have a little bit of fun while we're doing it, that's all cool. Visitor recall and memorability of your booth, your company, your brand, your messaging, and your content is another positive disruptor, the ability to impact and increase recall. And you want to have that buzz. You want to be that booth that when people leave your booth and they're moving around the WEFTEC floor and seeing their colleagues, they're like, man, have you been to that booth? You got to go check that out. That's mind-blowing. Not to mention the buzz that can happen on social media and everything else. So it's positive. And some of us are a little fearful about where do we start and how do we bring technology into our booth and what technology should we be bringing into our booth. So it's my hope today kind of takes you through this journey and has you walk out of here with at least one idea that you're going to try to adapt and apply. Okay, so the top technologies that are being utilized currently, kind of in order of utilization, are tablets. Number two are interactive touchscreens. Number three is digital signage. Number four is scale models that are being supported with interactive AV. And number five is geofencing or proximity marketing. And we're going to show you something that WEFTEC adopted last year that's going to blow your mind. And number six is projection mapping. And what is moving very quickly is augmented reality and both virtual reality, which would be the using of the Oculus Rift or the headsets to be able to selectively distribute your content and control who sees what content. And some of these virtual reality experiences now, put it on the headset, are so immersive that you'll actually feel like you're standing in a water treatment plant and right in the zone. So these are up and coming. And augmented reality is the ability to scan something under and have the image change on a screen. So there's some amazing stuff going on. So let's jump in and dive. Tablets, number one. This fits, honestly, any exhibitor. Again, a small exhibitor in a 10 by 10. Whether you are going to have them affixed to a stand like this, right? One thing I like about tablet technology is the portability of it, the ability to have apps on my staff's either iPads or even their smartphones, and the ability to deploy this technology in a one-to-one manner, not just anywhere around the booth, but honestly anywhere around the show. I might meet someone in the hotel lobby bar that is a potential customer. I've got my smartphone with me. A conversation ensues. A demo happens at 10:30 at night. So it's pretty cool. The ability, again, to mount them on stands or fix them to countertops in like Genius Bar, the Apple Store setup that we see, or walls, or even freestanding kiosks. Tablets can be guided where your staff is kind of guiding someone through, or they can be self-guided. I will give you a big word of advice if you're going to go self-guided. Have very clear instructions near the tablet, static visual instructions of what to do, because I've seen many attendees walk into a booth and see a tablet mounted and go up and try to engage with it, and it's not super intuitive about what to do. So make sure that there's instructions near it. You can also take tablets. What's cool about them is the ability to have multiple tablets around the booth and have them integrate and interact with larger video walls or flat panels. So there's some really cool stuff you can do there. And the other thing now with tablet technology is with NFC and Bluetooth, near-field communications and Bluetooth, the ability to have your tablet interact with an attendee's smartphone or their tablet. So that creates a whole new set of dynamics that can happen. And the ability to synchronize several tablets together and integrate them. Another thing you can do, the top is, it's kind of like there's an education center in the booth, which is somewhat basic, but you'll see in the bottom left, if you are going to bring some technology into the booth, make it pop, so you'll see this example of backlit like stands that could have branding, that could have messaging on it, and when you light it up, the human eye is naturally attracted to light. So a tablet. So here's a couple examples. Show and tell presentations or demonstrations. They can be a virtual presentation. They can be a simulating the actual environment. What a great way to prove, the functionality or the claims that you're talking about. Another cool use is people love to learn in a quick interactive manner, and the ability to integrate quick quizzes or questions or multiple choices. So learning based. And sometimes you can integrate a trivia. How many, take the 60-second clean water challenge. How many questions can you get right in 60 seconds? But also the ability to capture data from attendees as they interact with it and then publish that data real time in the booth. Gamification, super hot. I'll show you a couple examples here. Doing surveys. You want to get feedback, market research, product feedback, feedback about the visitor's experience in your booth. A tablet with a quick survey. Maybe it's a visitor exit survey, a 3-question survey when they exit your booth. There's so many applications that we could probably spend the whole day on it. So here's an example here of where Audi was had their new cars on display at the auto show, and they had interactive tablets near where you could learn about the key features and the benefits. So the attendee could walk up, see the car live, and interact with the tablet. Okay, here's an example we talked about of using like quizzes, gamification, and then also tying it to multiple flat screens in the booth. So there's some cool stuff you can do with this type of stuff. Another use is lead qualification, of course, right? The ability to capture information and also deliver information, PDFs, email, whatever. Scanning badge data, building qualifiers into it, immediately sending literatures, and some of the more sophisticated lead capture apps that can be loaded to tablets not only can immediately migrate the data into Salesforce.com and other CRMs, but what's cool is when you send, like let's say you're with a visitor and they're interested in this solution and you email them a PDF, it can track what they do with that content consumption. Did they open it? How many times? How long were they engaged with it? Did they forward it to somebody else? So you can track content consumption too with tablets, and the ability with some of them today, again, to integrate it with your CRM system and have all kinds of cool stuff happen, like the lead data migrate, as soon as you have internet, right, migrate straight into your CRM and have instant notification to your account execs, whoever manages the account. So there's some really cool stuff you can do with that. Tablets. If you're not using tablets now, this would be a really good jumping off point to look, how can I begin to bring tablets in? Because some of you have, by the way, a lot of solutions, right? And you don't maybe have the budget to bring them all, and you probably shouldn't bring them all. But the other benefit is that you can really present your entire suite of solutions without having to bring all your solutions. And that would mean serious financial savings. Interactive touch screens, super hot right now. We're seeing more of these again in a freestanding kiosk with branding and call to action signage on it. We're seeing them mounted on walls in booths or mounted to counters. We're seeing exhibitors place them on the perimeter of the booth as a engagement device on the perimeter. Again, it can be guided where there's instruction and there's a staffer there, or it can be self-guided. Some of them now not only have the ability for touch, but the ability to sense motion near the tablet and have near the touch screen and have things that I'll show you in a moment happen. And tablet, you can control them with remote control. You can control them with different devices. So here's an example at the bottom of the screen. This was at a radiology event, and it was GE was their theme for the show was 30 years of MRI innovation. So what they wanted to educate the audience was about is reinforce their position as a technology leader. So you'll see the lady standing in front of the screen here, and see the motion sensors on the top, and as she got near the screen, she could walk right or left, and each of the major innovations over the last 30 years would come forward, and it would give her a very quick image along with some copy about what the technology was. Fun, engaging, memorable, the kind of thing that people leave the booth and go, hey, have you been by that booth? You got to go check that out. Okay. This was a great one. I saw this one at the National Association of Convenience Stores. General Mills was using an interactive touchscreen combining gamification into it. Their theme for the show was discover and elevate category growth. So they did a thing called the Snack Swap Challenge, and it was really cool. You know, when the C-store owner came into the booth, they would take them to the challenge, and 9 products appeared on the screen. And they would ask the retailer to select, by touching, the 3 products that they thought were bringing down the overall category sales. And then another screen would appear that had 9 products. They could select 3 that they thought would elevate the category sales. And it would, in real time, calculate and tell them if they grew the category. Fun, quick, immersive, educational, test your knowledge, right? A great way to do it. So you can use them on a deeper dive, quiz, games. You can also, obviously, with your tablets, your touch screens, once they've done something in the booth, they could be pushed immediately over to your website. If you want to link up to your social media accounts and get people to tweet or retweet, there's so much you can do with interactive touchscreens. And again, give you the ability to cross-sell multiple products. And the way we're seeing some exhibitors, and these tend to be larger exhibitors, is they'll have an area in their booth that's an information area. So this is a place where attendees come. They don't have an immediate need or a project, but it's a quick immersive learning center in the booth. And here's an example from Philips at a show we saw where they had their entire suite of solutions, and they had 6 of these in a semicircle in one area of the booth. The attendee could walk up, any of the solutions they had an interest in, they could touch it. It would explode a larger, deeper dive. So interactive touchscreens. Here's a gamification example we saw at the National Apartment Association event for multifamily housing. Sherwin-Williams, right? You know, they're paint. We know them. Everybody knows their brand, right? But they created the color match challenge. So what they would do is on this screen, and notice how they have the screen angled right there at the right height, and they had a leaderboard at the top, and they would try to have you see how many colors you could match in, you know, whatever time, and they had the leaderboard, and then they were given away, in this example, for first place, a $500 Sherwin-Williams gift card, and they had a first place, second place, third place. So this was for them. It was fun. It was engaging. It was branding, and there was a chance to win. Now, obviously, many of you in this industry are dealing with government, municipalities, and you've got to really, if you are going to have any form of prizes or rewards, you know, you're going to want to try to keep those, make sure they're in compliance with what is reasonable for the industry. Okay. Next, number 3, digital signage. I'm seeing the day over the next several years where we no longer see static printed backdrops. I think digital signage, as the price comes down, is going to take over exhibitry. It's going to ultimately be what most exhibitors are doing. So it's flexible, animated, lighted messaging. And, you know, it can be a small sign. You know, it could be a 2 by 2 foot sign over near one of your solution centers. It could be, you know, your top tier signage on the top of your booth. Instead of being stuck with a fabric sign, right, that only says one thing, now you have the ability to use color and motion and video, right, to draw attention. It might be the entire back wall of your booth that you could be doing with this. And you can also, with these snap together panels, create some really unique shapes and configuration to kind of break up the square or the round mold. Okay, so this is a very, very simple example of throwing questions up, right, as a way to hook people. You know, the human brain has a hard time resisting a question, especially when it's relevant. This is a large, this was a 25 by 60 foot LED video back wall in the booth where the messaging was changing, the imagery was changing. This was a showstopper. It was one of the most impressive that I've seen, and they were using this, so they didn't have that static backdrop, right? They could use variety and motion, digital signage, okay? Consider the placement of it in your booth. Make sure you've got it in the right place. Bigger's better, bold, bright. You can use it to very quickly build it, like tell a story. Here's the problem, right? Here's the implication of the problem. Here's the solution. Here's the impact of the solution. Data, sharing data and educating your audience. Maybe you've got events in your booth. Maybe you've got events going on in other places. Maybe you've got some of your technical people speaking on, sessions. Maybe you're having a social event or you're sponsoring something. You could promote with that. Entertainment, right? We're seeing people using music and lighting and dancing and stuff like that. Of course, consider the audience, make sure it's right. The content can't be long. Got to keep it short on this stuff. You got to think in terms of maybe 30 to 90 seconds for any single piece of content on digital signage. And it is important, if you're going to use digital signage, that whoever's creating your content have good design skills and be able to execute it. So here's an example of a digital signage. This was Miller Coors that was using both static graphics, infographic type static, along with digital signage and a visual presentation. This is a top tier sign we saw where there were a new product introduction, and so they were using it on the top of the booth to really scream all the way around the show floor, new, check this out, which, by the way, if you have something new, it is your magnet at a trade show. Okay, here's an example we saw at Exhibitor Show where they were polling booth visitors, and they were asking, what 3 areas do you feel are most critical to the success of your trade show program? And they were posting the results real time in the booth. People love to learn from their peers and their colleagues. So you might be able to use some form of a poll and the real time and live sharing of the results, okay? Remember I said there may come a day where the exhibit backdrop actually becomes digital? Well, here's an example. This is a snap together digital back wall. That's the same booth. So you can see how the imagery and the messaging and everything changes, and the ability to have an exhibit that just demands attention. Okay, this is just one example. You'll notice also as you look carefully in this booth, they're using touchscreen, kiosk-mounted touchscreens right on the perimeter, and on the left over in the corner, they've got a small projection, video projection over there. So digital signage, flexibility, dynamic, attention grabbing, can change on the moment. If you don't like the messaging and the content, you can change it up tonight and adjust your, hey, if you're running like certain videos and you're watching people pass and you're noticing that only 2 out of 10 people are noticing or stopping, which, by the way, we're going to share something with you, which is going to give you control over knowing that, then you can make real-time adjustments day to day in the show. How can I change my message, my imagery, to increase the number of people that view and the number that enter the booth? Next technology. This is really working well with companies that have large solutions, what the old phrase used to be big iron, right? That they're having to lug into the show. And, the attendees want to see stuff like that. So I'm not saying we replace all of it, but maybe you have your showstopper is your actual physical product that you're bringing in, and you're building out maybe the rest of your line with scale models with interactive AV. Okay, the ability to have that multimedia that guides the visitor through. When you have very detailed insides or workings, people want to be able to peel back the skin, so to speak, and look in at the the bones, if you will, how it works, this is a great fit for that. Having static signage, you'll know this example up top not only has the video wall, but it's got a static sign right up above it. And use an animation to show processes and functions, okay? And even putting a video host on it. So here's an example of using a scale model with interactive AV that is using an X-ray vision slider along with a video, a talking video host, along with a scale model. And here's another example of it, okay? Migrating the risk of differential sticking. And as she slides the X-ray slider here, it's giving an inside look into that product and how it works. And by the way, technical engineering types love this type of stuff. Okay, proximity marketing and geofencing technology, okay? The ability today, you know, with smartphones and beacon technology, okay? It started kind of with RFID, which was chips that were embedded. And then near field communication is the ability for two phones to recognize and start communicating and moving data from one device to the other. And it seems to be the state of the art right now where it's all headed is beacon and Bluetooth technology. Okay, so you can track things like, you know, how many people visited your booth, how long were they in the booth, what did they do while they were in your booth. The ability to use push notifications and trigger, not just trigger messaging out to the visitor, but also trigger events that happen in the booth. I saw an example at a trade show where a company had targeted 50 senior executives, and they sent a very personalized pre-show marketing inviting them to the booth. And they had at that point, it was an RFID chip enabled in the invitation. And when that visitor got within 10 feet of the booth and they entered the booth, a personal video talking right to that single attendee, calling them by their name, showed up on the screen. You want to talk about mind-blowing, right? You want to talk about just blowing away your customer? You know, man, the stuff you can do with that. I was at a show recently where American Express had an escape room in their booth. It was part of their exhibit experience. And when I got within 20 feet of the booth, a push notification showed up on my phone that said, check out American Express's escape room. And I look up and there it is. And I'm like, wow, that is too cool. Messaging, presentations, event times, celebrity appearances in the booth, on and on and on. Can also use it, you know, when you have a larger booth, the ability to have it guide the attendee almost like on a museum type journey through your booth. And then the ability, of course, to track and see what's happening. So with that, I want to bring Davon on from Experient. Experient has shaken up the landscape, disrupted the landscape here with their new solution called EventBit, which I think all of you are going to be interested to know about. So Davon, tell us a little bit about EventBit.
Thank you, Jefferson. Hey, everyone. My name is Davon Addison. As Jefferson said, I am with Experient. I'm actually an exhibitor manager, and I specialize in specifically EventBit. We've partnered with WEFTEC now for about 3 years on deploying the EventBit technology at their show. So for some of you guys, this is going to be like a refresher for you, and hopefully for some of you new exhibitors, this is going to be something that will definitely interest you for this year's event. So what EventBit is, EventBit is Bluetooth low energy technology that we utilize to understand attendee engagement at the show, whether it be in common areas, sessions, on the show floor. And how we do this is we take a beacon chip and we place it on the back of the attendee badge. And so wherever they walk within the show, whether it be, like I said, a session room, a common area, or on the show floor, that beacon is sending out a signal to different devices that we have deployed, kind of giving us a better idea of just where people are going, how long they're dwelling, and allowing the organizer, like WEFTEC, to make more strategic decisions moving forward to make sure that it is an enjoyable experience for everyone involved. So how do we capture this data? There's two separate ways that we do this. As you can see at the top, we have a little square box. That's what we call our hub. And we are able to place these hubs in very strategic areas, like I said, like session rooms and common areas to pick up on attendee engagement and attendee what attendees are doing at show floors. Another way that we're able to capture this data is by utilizing our lead retrieval systems. And that's where you guys kind of come in. So the cool thing with our lead retrieval systems is they're all integrated with our low tooth or beacon low energy technology, allowing us to now give you behavioral data on your booth space specifically. So whether if you rent a RT2000 from us or a tablet, or if you have our swap app on your mobile devices, those two are now capturing this beacon technology and giving you behavioral data on your booth specifically. And all this is captured in real time and uploaded to what we like to call a cloud or your exhibitor portal. So you can actually look at those data points and actually make real time either booth staff decisions or booth design decisions. So as we move on to the next slide, I'm just going to go into, like I said, what's in it for exhibitors, how are we bringing value to you guys. All right, so what we're looking at right now is your exhibitor portal. We might have moved just a little bit ahead, but I kind of wanted to go over some data points. What I like to point out to you guys is that first day or two, I actually like you to go into your portal and look at some of these data points. The first one that we have here is your booth traffic. Booth traffic is going to let you know exactly how many people have walked by your booth throughout that duration of the first day of the show. So those first 8 hours, how many people are actually walking by. And I like to focus on that as well as your visitors, because I like for you guys to go into your portal and kind of compare the two. If you look at your booth traffic and you see, okay, the first day we got 4,000 or 5,000 people walk by our booth, but if you look at your visitors and you maybe have a low visitor count, like 200, 300 people, that's a good data point that you guys can use to kind of coach your booth staff, maybe get them more involved and coach them into engaging the attendees around your booth so you can up that visitor total. So those are really cool data points that you guys can actually coach and manage your booth staff at real time. And then we also give you just basic average dwell time, so how long people are dwelling within that area, and then some cool graphs in your portal that you guys can kind of utilize for reporting aspects post-show. So as we move next, so for some of you larger booths, we also give you the opportunity to actually get behavioral analytics for specific areas within your booth. I know a lot of you guys will, invest money in a hospitality area or bring in new products or a demo area. And originally, there was really no way of actually knowing attendee engagement. I mean, yeah, you can use your eyeball test and kind of gauge based off of what you see. But now with EventBit, we have hardcore data that'll actually let you know exact behavioral data around these specific areas. So as you can see, we've placed hubs at products 1, 2, and 3. And then as we kind of move on, and you check in your portal, you'll actually see real live data. So as you can see, product 1 had a total of 320 visitors. Product 2 had a total of 242 visitors, and product 3 had a total of 131. So as you can see which products are actually drawing attendee engagements, which one are the more popular, and you can actually have more meaningful follow-up with your leads post-show. So as we move on, so this just kind of gives you more of a detailed breakdown of that lead and kind of their engagement within your booth. And like I said, this is something really cool that you guys would want to utilize to have that more meaningful follow-up with your lead post-show. This exact lead actually spent a couple of minutes at various aspects within that booth. So now you can kind of follow up with them and say, hey, I saw that you spent a good amount of time at our product 2 area, and kind of maybe even send that lead over to that specialist for product 2 and have them have that more meaningful follow-up and actually make them feel like you followed their actual journey throughout your booth and actually paid attention to what they were interested in. So this year, because we're always trying to, add the exhibitor value to EventBit and kind of show you how it's beneficial for you guys. We've implemented a new enhancement within lead retrieval. It's for all exhibitors, and it's called Booth View Alerts. Booth View Alerts gives you guys the ability to receive an alert on your device, whether it be a rented device from us or a mobile app that you download on your phone, but receive an alert when key prospects are within range of your booth. And how this works, whenever you download the app on your device or pick up a lead retrieval device from a lead booth, you'll be presented with a list of company names of companies that will be represented on the show floor. So you'll go through, maybe you'll select some of your current clients or some of the key prospects or companies that you want to speak with the most on the show floor this year. And whenever a representative from that company comes within range of your booth, it'll actually send you a nice little push notification with their first and last name, job title, as well as the company they represent. I like to call it an extra pair of eyes because this data we've noticed is data that actually gets booth staff more engaged and willing to actually, see who's around the booth and actually engage with attendees because they know that, one of their key prospects is really near. Now, you do still have to scan a lead in order to gain their contact information, but this is just another cool feature that we're implementing to help with that lead generation and help with that engagement between your booth staff and attendees around your booth. So those are some really cool features that we have planned for you guys this year. And, hopefully moving forward, if you have any questions, I'm available to answer that as we get to our on-site phase for WEFTEC this year.
All right. Thank you, Davon. Yeah, this is super cool technology. At WEFTEC last year, I was consulting, working with Badger Meter, a key exhibitor in the show. Deb Balderas is the event manager for Badger Meter, and we used the swap with the EventBit, and we had it, our marketing manager was in the exhibit, and he had it open on his desktop, his notebook, during the entire show. And so we were paying very close attention. Some of the cool features on this, you see on the bottom where it has like this October 1, October 2, and these spikes. When you click on that graph, it will show you, like if I were to click and scroll my finger across, it'll show you the breakdown by hour, the number of people that passed, the number that stopped, the number that entered. So we're able to really assess aisle traffic and how it flowed during the days. The aisle traffic count, that's important because that's going to tell you, a lot of us struggle when we go, man, I didn't feel like there was enough traffic in my part of the hall or by my booth. And now for the first time ever, not only are you going to have the ability to see what that aisle traffic count was, but you're going to be able to go inside and look at the demographics of what types of companies, what job functions and titles. So we were watching that. And then, we're looking at the contrast between aisle traffic and the total number of visits to our booth. So now, Deb said that she's got a new CEO in who's really bottom line, and he's pressing her for data and analytics and metrics and cost justification to determine, is the exhibit program working? Are we getting value? Are we getting ROI? And she said that she really struggled prior to EventBit in having access to this type of data. So it now gave her real-time analytics to measure how well they were executing. So we were looking at, one of the big numbers we were looking at was the percentage of visitors that convert to a lead. That was a real important number to us. So if you look with 268 unique visitors to the booth, we had a 79% conversion to lead. That meant that our booth staff was really on their game. And not just in terms of the quantitative number of the leads, but as we used the swap app, we were able to go through and look at the custom qualifiers we had built and determine how many of these qualifiers were being captured by our booth staff, and we could tie them to individual booth staffers. So we also launched a MVP program on each day in the booth. We would acknowledge the booth staffer who not only had the highest quantity, but more importantly, quality in terms of how much data they were capturing. Dwell time in the booth is very important. The average interaction in a booth is 3 to 7 minutes. You can see that our average interaction in the booth was 4.5 minutes. So we fell right in the middle of that average interaction. But probably among all the great uses was we noticed on day one that our stop rate, meaning the number of people that passed and the number of visitors, was under 5%. So we pulled the booth staff together that at the end of the day before we broke, and we said, hey, we need to take better advantage of the traffic near the booth. So we purposefully managed our interactions a little more efficiently, and when they were done, they put themselves on the perimeter, and on day two, our stop rate on day one was under 5%. On day two, our stop rate was 15%. So we had a 300% increase in stop rate just by having this data and being able to coach our staff on it. The other thing it gave us, as Davon mentioned, was the real-time breakdown of what types of organizations and what job functions and titles. So now we could, after the show, we could look at, the number of visitors, the number and percentage by type of organization, and by job function, to show senior management that we were getting the right type of people to our booth. And the conversion rate was high, the ability to see who, and the use of the qualifiers. And Deb told me in our debrief meeting that she thought that bringing EventBit into her exhibit was a phenomenal tool, to quote her exactly, phenomenal. And for the first time in her 20 plus years of managing trade shows, she finally had real-time fingertip access to data that she never had before. So my recommendation is, if you're serious about measurement, take a serious look at this. It's an absolute game changer. It's like being able to pull back the curtains and look under the hood. So take a look at it. All right, take a moment here, think about any questions. I got one more piece of technology, and we're going to jump into Q&A. The final technology that we're seeing on show floors more and more is projection mapping. And this is the ability to use video projectors, computers, and software to take a surface, a three-dimensional surface in your booth, and turn it into temporary screens. And you can do some really visually stunning stuff in terms of what appears to be holographic type imaging. And it too can be motion-based. For example, here's an example of a kiosk where they've got the small motion sensor on the bottom, and there's a video wall here. There's projection. This example would be rear projection video, and when the visitor scans, the video goes live, and they have the ability to interact with it. Another use of projection mapping, this is an example I saw at the Offshore Technology Conference. Cameron does subsea systems, and they had a setup of a rig, and they were projecting so the reps in the booth could take the visitor to any area of the rig. They could touch an area on this projection map wall and have a interactive video pop up to take the visitor on a deeper dive. Here's an example of floor projection technology, the ability to project the image on the floor and have the visitor interact with the image by tapping and moving their feet around. So another cool technology, okay? And then other uses of it today are the product map demos, where you create a custom sculpture and then you're using 3D animation to show feature, functionality, and benefits. So some cool stuff there. Sometimes lighting can be an issue in show halls if you got real strong downlighting on top of your booth. And we're also seeing now the emergence of projection mapping mini theaters in the booth, where you can control the lighting environment and still have all of the cool technology of projection mapping in your booth. Okay, so we've run a few minutes over. I'm going to open this up for Q&A right now. While I do, I want to first toss it back to Stephanie for any additional thoughts or closing comments.
I feel like we've covered a lot of the existing available tech and the up-and-coming tech, and as well as some amazing capabilities for EventBit for exhibitors. And I feel like exhibitors should be well poised to take advantage of all of this for their upcoming exhibits, if not for this year.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. We got a couple questions. I think that there's a few of them. They may be in my wheelhouse. What is the average development time for gamification and touchscreen interactives? Well, today, there's many companies that have turnkey solutions that they'll work with you on the content and they'll brand the touchscreen and the application. So it can go really quick. It could be a matter of a couple weeks. My recommendation for everybody who's interested and really finding out who the trusted providers are is go to Exhibitor Online, which is Exhibitor Magazine, and look under Tradeshow Technology, and you will find many, many vendors. There are companies I know of out there that already have the gamification quiz things built. All you have to do, they'll work with you to come up with your questions, they'll brand the app, they'll build it, and they'll put it in. So there's a ton of providers out there. I'm not going to really endorse anybody. I'm just going to say that you will find almost any of the emerging technologies and the current technologies on exhibitoronline.net. Someone's talking about the cost of technology. A tablet app could be a couple $1,000s, I mean, some of these technologies can run into the $10, $20, $30, $40,000 range or more or less. Okay, let me see. So, Davon, I think this question is in your direction. People are asking, what is the cost for the swap and the EventBit technology?
Yeah, great question. So cost for swap, we usually do that as a 3-pack. So you can get 3 activations for a mobile device for roughly around $600. As far as like deploying hubs at a larger booth for specific behavioral analytics around different areas at your booth, that's more of a consultation that we do with you guys, where we kind of, talk to you, understand, what are you trying to get out of deploying hubs at your booth, and then we'll make an assumption on how much that would cost for you guys based off of our consultation.
Okay, so the basic swap with three licenses is $600, which breaks down to $200 a license, which is awesome, right? Because then you have the portability, and then you can customize packages for whatever their needs are. Next question for you, Davon. Can exhibitors still access their EventBit data from last year's show?
Absolutely. The EventBit data is just like your lead retrieval data, which is always going to be in your exhibitor portal. Right now, there isn't really a cap on how long we store that data into your portal. So yes, you can access your EventBit data from last year, and we actually recommend that. And that way you can kind of compare last year's data to this year's data and see if you've made any adjustments and how those adjustments have benefited you, or maybe, didn't benefit you as much as it did last year.
Okay, cool. So you're saying once the EventBit data is captured and it's up in the cloud, it basically stays there, so they can access it whenever?
That is correct. That is correct. And if you guys are ever having issues accessing, your portal from last year, or, you've lost the email or you lost your login credentials, you can always reach out to the exhibitor sales rep for the show, and they can get that information over to you as well. Or you can reach out to me. I have access to it as well, so I have no issues with gaining you access to an old portal.
Okay. Thank you. Next question, Stephanie. I think this might be in your wheelhouse. Exhibitors asking, I know you can buy internet for your booth, but is there Wi-Fi covering the entire show, for as guests and exhibitors? So is there Wi-Fi in the exhibit hall?
Not in New Orleans. So for New Orleans, we do not have Wi-Fi in the exhibit hall, so you would need to buy internet for your booth.
Okay, to be able to access. Can the attendees, as like guests and attendees walking around, I guess what they're asking, can they access it also in the hall?
no, not to give such a harsh no, but it's kind of the same for them. Because New Orleans does not offer full coverage of Wi-Fi in the exhibit hall, so there are certain hotspots in the exhibit hall where we do have it available for them, but it's not completely available in the entire exhibit hall.
Okay, that's cool. Well, that is all I'm seeing for questions. So on behalf of Stephanie and the entire team at WEFTEC and Davon and the Experient team and Jefferson and my team here at Competitive Edge, we want to thank you guys so much for being an exhibitor. Thank you for coming out and learning a little bit about technology and how to integrate it to your booth. And as we said early on the gate, the adoption rate of technology in the WEFTEC exhibitor base is in the infancy state. So if you have the ability to integrate some technology, jump on it fast. Get in early. Claim the high ground. Whether you start with something as simple as a tablet, or whether you go all the way to sophisticated projection mapping, or maybe augmented reality, or even virtual reality, the benefits will far outweigh the cost. And keep in mind, most of the technology you create for a trade show can be repurposed and used in your business, out on sales calls, if you have a showroom. So you can probably repurpose the technology and use it in other places. So thanks everybody for logging in. This concludes our technology webinar for today. Be sure to visit the exhibitor toolkit page. We're going to upload the recording of this, and there's a lot more stuff on the toolkit page. So have a great rest of the day. We look forward to seeing everybody here at WEFTEC very soon. We'll talk to you again. Thanks. Bye.